You're sitting at dinner with your family. Your mom mentions, for the third time this month, how she never sees you anymore. Your dad sighs and says, "I guess we're just not important enough." Your sister chimes in, "Mom's been really stressed since you stopped coming around." And there it is, that familiar knot in your stomach. That voice in your head saying, maybe I'm being selfish. Maybe I should cancel my plans. Maybe I'm a bad son. A bad daughter. But here's what nobody tells you. That feeling isn't love. It's control. And if you've been raised in a family that uses guilt as their primary tool, you've been trained to ignore your own needs, your own goals, your own life so they can feel comfortable. Today, we read breaking down the 5 signs your family uses guilt to control you and why Ayn Rand would tell you that recognizing this isn't selfish, it's survival. Let's get into it. Before we dive into the signs, let's talk about why this matters. Guilt is one of the oldest emotional weapons in the family playbook, and it works because it's invisible. Nobody's yelling. Nobody's hitting. On the surface, everything looks fine, but underneath, you're being slowly conditioned to believe that your happiness is a betrayal. Here's the trap. Families that use guilt don't say, "You must obey us." They say, "We just want you to be happy," and then punish you emotionally every time you try to be happy on your own terms. You move to a new city for your dream job? "I guess we'll just have to get used to being alone." You set a boundary about holiday visits? "After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us?" You choose your partner over their approval. "We're losing you." The message is always the same. Your independence is their suffering. And if you cause their suffering, you're the villain. Ayn Rand understood this perfectly. She called it the manipulation of the victim. The idea that you owe your life, your choices, your time to someone else simply because they're family. And she rejected it completely. So today, we're going to walk through 5 specific signs that this is happening to you. And if even one of these resonates, stay until the end because we're going to talk about what to do about it. Here are the 5 signs. SIGN number 1. They frame your independence as abandonment. Let's start with the most common one. You get a promotion that requires you to relocate. You're excited. This is what you've worked for. But when you tell your family, the room goes cold. Your mom doesn't say congratulations. She says, "So you're leaving us." Your dad doesn't ask about the job. He asks, "What about Sunday dinners?" Notice what just happened. Your achievement, your growth, was reframed as an attack on them. You didn't get a promotion. You abandoned your family. This is the guilt trap in its purest form. They make your independence about their loss. And suddenly, you're not celebrating, you're defending yourself. Here's a real example. Sarah gets accepted into a graduate program 3 states away. She's thrilled. But her mother immediately starts talking about her health problems, how she's getting older, how she doesn't know how much time she has left. Sarah hasn't even packed yet, and she already feels like she's killing her mother. That's not love. That's control. Ayn Rand would say this. Your life is not a sacrifice to be laid at anyone's altar, not even your family's. The fact that they raised you does not mean they own you. Independence is not betrayal, it's growth. And any family that punishes you for growing doesn't love you, they love controlling you. SIGN number 2. Your feelings are always secondary to theirs. Here's how you know this one is happening. You're upset about something. Maybe your brother made a cruel joke at your expense during Thanksgiving. It hurt, so you bring it up. And immediately the script flips. You're too sensitive. It was just a joke. Why do you always have to make everything about you? Now you've ruined the whole evening. Suddenly, you're not the one who was hurt. You're the one who caused the problem. Your feelings became the inconvenience. Their comfort became the priority. Let me give you a concrete scenario. John tells his father that certain comments about his weight are hurtful and he'd like them to stop. His father's response? "I'm just trying to help you. If you can't handle honest feedback, that's your problem. Now I have to walk on eggshells around you." Notice the structure. John's boundary became an attack. His father's behavior was defended. And John is now the bad guy for having feelings. This is emotional manipulation at scale. And it trains you, over years, to stop expressing your needs altogether. Because every time you do, you're made to feel like the problem. Ayn Rand would call this the inversion of moral responsibility. The person causing harm positions themselves as the victim, and the actual victim is guilted into silence. Your feelings are not secondary. They're not an inconvenience. And a family that consistently dismisses them is not a family that respects you. SIGN number 3. They remind you of their sacrifices constantly. This one is insidious because it's wrapped in truth. Yes, your parents probably did sacrifice for you. They worked long hours. They paid for things. They gave up certain dreams to raise you. That's real. But here's the key. Healthy parents don't weaponize that. Guilt-driven parents do. Every disagreement, every boundary, every choice you make that they don't like gets met with the same response. After everything I've done for you, you want to skip a family event because you're exhausted from work? I gave up my career to raise you, and you can't even give me one evening. You set a financial boundary because you're trying to save money? We spent thousands on your education, and now you're too cheap to help us out. The message is clear. You are in debt forever, and that debt can be called in at any moment to override your autonomy. Let's look at an example. Emily's mother frequently brings up how she quit her job to be a stay-at-home mom. Emily didn't ask her to do that. She was a child. But now, as an adult, every time Emily makes a choice her mother disapproves of, she hears, "I sacrificed my whole career for you, and this is how you repay me?" The sacrifice becomes a chain, and Emily is supposed to wear it for life. Ayn Rand despised this moral framework. She would say, a sacrifice made freely is a gift. A sacrifice held over someone's head is a contract they never signed. You don't owe your life for being born. You don't owe endless compliance for being raised. If your family constantly reminds you of what they gave up, they're not sharing their love, they're collecting a debt. SIGN number 4. They play the victim when you set boundaries. Here's the test. Set a boundary and watch what happens. I won't be able to make it to dinner this Sunday. A healthy response? Okay, we'll miss you. Let us know when you're free. A guilt-driven response? I guess we're just not a priority anymore. See the difference? One respects your choice. The other punishes you for it by positioning themselves as the injured party. This tactic works because it flips the script. You're the one setting a reasonable boundary, but somehow you end up feeling like the bad guy. They sigh. They go quiet. They say things like, do what you want. We'll be fine, in a tone that clearly communicates they will not be fine, and it's just your fault. Here is a real-world example. Mike tells his parents he's spending Christmas with his girlfriend's family this year. He's been dating her for 3 years. It's serious. He offers to visit the day after Christmas. His mother's response? Silence, then tears. Then, I never thought I'd see the day when my own son didn't want to be with me on Christmas. Mike hasn't rejected her. He's made a choice. But she's positioned herself as abandoned, and now Mike is scrambling to fix a problem he didn't create. This is emotional hostage-taking. And Ayn Rand would say this: a boundary is not an attack. It's a definition of where you end and they begin. Any person who treats your boundaries as betrayal is someone who never respected your separateness in the first place. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to make choices. And you are not responsible for managing their emotional reaction to your autonomy. SIGN number 5. They use family as a trump card. This is the final and most powerful weapon in the guilt arsenal. But we're family. 4 words. And with them, every argument ends. Every boundary collapses. Every standard you'd apply to anyone else suddenly doesn't apply to them. Would you tolerate a friend speaking to you the way your mother does? No. Would you accept a coworker violating your privacy the way your sibling does? Absolutely not. But they're family, so you're supposed to endure it, forgive it, ignore it. Here are what this looks like in practice. Rachel's brother has borrowed money from her 4 times and never paid it back. The 5th time he asks, she says no. His response? I can't believe you turn your back on family over money. Blood is thicker than water. Notice the framing. Rachel didn't turn her back. She set a boundary with someone who repeatedly disrespected her. But the word family is used as a shield, as if being related erases accountability. Or take David. His father makes racist comments at every gathering. David has asked him to stop. His father refuses. When David says he won't attend if the comments continue, his mother steps in. He's your father. You don't get to pick and choose. Family is family. Translation: your standards don't apply here. Your discomfort doesn't matter. You're supposed to tolerate what you'd never tolerate from anyone else because of shared DNA. Ayn Rand would reject this completely. She'd say, family is not a moral blank check. Being related to someone does not obligate you to accept mistreatment. Respect is earned, not owed. And the moment someone uses family to silence your legitimate concerns, they've revealed that they value control over connection. You don't owe anyone access to your life simply because you share blood. You owe people respect when they've earned it. And if they haven't, the word family doesn't change that. So let's step back and look at what's really happening here through the lens of Ayn Rand's philosophy. If you've recognized even one of these signs in your family, you're dealing with what Rand would call the morality of altruistic duty. The idea that you exist to serve others. That your life is not your own. That independence is selfishness and obligation is virtue. And guilt is the enforcement mechanism. Here's what Rand understood that most people miss. Guilt is not a natural emotion. It's a learned one. You're not born feeling guilty for pursuing your goals, for setting boundaries, for choosing your own path. You're taught to feel that way. And families that rely on guilt are teaching you one core lesson. You are not the primary beneficiary of your own life. They are. In her novel The Fountainhead, Rand writes about this exact dynamic. She shows how people use emotional manipulation to extract compliance from those who won't give it freely. They don't argue with your reasoning, they attack your character. They don't respect your choices, they punish you for making them. And the weapon they use is always the same: your own compassion, your own love, your own desire to be good. They say, if you loved me, you'd do this. They say, a good son wouldn't treat his mother this way. They say, after everything we've sacrificed, how can you be so selfish? And here's the trap. You start to believe them. You start to think that maybe wanting your own life, your own happiness, your own peace is selfish. Maybe you are the problem, but Rand would tell you this. Selfishness is not a vice. It's a necessity, not the selfishness of taking from others. Not the selfishness of harm or cruelty. But the selfishness of valuing your own existence. Of recognizing that your life is yours to live. That your time, your energy, your choices belong to you first. She would say, the person who demands you sacrifice your happiness for theirs is not acting out of love. They're acting out of power. And they've dressed that power in the language of family, duty, and obligation to make you comply. Now here's where people get uncomfortable. Because we've been taught that family comes first. That blood is thicker than water. That you owe your parents everything. But Rand would ask, owe them what, exactly? Obedience? Endless availability? The abandonment of your own goals and dreams? She'd say no. You owe them respect if they've earned it. You owe them gratitude for genuine care and support. But you do not owe them your life. And the moment they use guilt to control you, they've stopped treating you as a person and started treating you as property. This is not selfishness. This is self-preservation. Because a family that loves you wants you to thrive. They celebrate your independence. They respect your boundaries. They support your growth even when it takes you away from them. A family that guilts you wants you dependent. They want you available. They want you small enough to fit into the role they've assigned you. And Rand would tell you, you are not required to stay small to make others comfortable. So if you've been carrying the weight of their guilt, if you've been twisting yourself into knots trying to please people, who are never pleased if you've been sacrificing your own well-being, to avoid their disappointment, this is your permission to stop. Not because you don't love them, but because you finally love yourself enough to recognize manipulation for what it is. You are not selfish for wanting your own life. You're sane. And that brings us to the most important question. What do you actually do about this? Here's the hard truth. You can't change your family. You can't make them stop using guilt. You can't argue them into respecting your boundaries. But you can change how you respond. And that changes everything. So here's what you do. First, stop explaining yourself. This is the biggest mistake people make. They think if they just explain their reasoning well enough, their family will understand. They'll lay out all the logical reasons for their choice, hoping for approval. But here's what actually happens. Every explanation you give becomes ammunition. Every reason you offer becomes something they can argue with, dismiss, or turn against you. So when your mother says, "Why can't you come to dinner on Sunday?" and you say, "Because I'm exhausted and I need time to recharge," she hears, "Here's an objection I can overcome. You can rest after dinner. You're always tired. Maybe you should see a doctor. We won't stay long, just an hour. See what happened." Your reason became negotiable. Instead, try this. "I won't be able to make it Sunday." That's it. No justification, no defense. Just a statement of fact. When they push, and they will, you repeat, I understand you're disappointed. I won't be able to make it. It feels uncomfortable. Because you've been trained to believe that you owe them an explanation. But you don't. You're an adult making a choice. That's the only explanation required. Second, name the pattern when you see it. Guilt works best in the shadows. It works when it's unnamed and unchallenged. So when your family uses one of the 5 signs we talked about, call it out calmly. I noticed that when I set a boundary, you frame it as me abandoning you. That's not what's happening. You're reminding me of your sacrifices again. I appreciate what you've done, but I'm not going to change my decision. You're playing the victim right now, and I'm not going to engage with that. This is not about being cruel. It's about refusing to play the game. You're shining a light on the manipulation, and most of the time that's enough to disrupt it. Third, be prepared for escalation. When you stop complying, they will not suddenly respect you. They will escalate. The guilt will get heavier. The silent treatment will last longer. The accusations will get sharper. You've changed. We don't even know you anymore. I guess we failed as parents. This is the extinction burst. It's what happens when a tactic that used to work stops working. They're testing to see if you'll break. And here's what you need to know. If you hold your ground, it will eventually stop. Not because they've suddenly seen the light, but because they'll realize the old methods don't work anymore. But if you cave even once, you've just taught them that they need to escalate harder next time. So expect the storm, prepare for it, and do not break. Finally, build a life that doesn't require their approval. This is the long-term solution. Because as long as you're financially dependent, emotionally dependent, or socially isolated, their guilt will have power over you. But when you have your own income, your own relationships, your own sense of identity that isn't tied to their validation, the guilt loses its grip. You stop asking, what will they think? You start asking, what do I want? And that shift, that reclaiming of your own life, is the ultimate act of self-respect. Ayn Rand would say, you're not responsible for their feelings. You're responsible for your own life, and the moment you fully accept that, you become free. It won't be easy, it won't be comfortable, but it will be yours. So let's recap. If your family frames your independence as abandonment, if your feelings are always secondary to theirs, if they constantly remind you of their sacrifices, if they play the victim when you set boundaries, and if they use family as a trump card to silence your concerns, you re-dealing with guilt-based control, and recognizing that is not selfish. It's clarity. Ayn Rand spent her life dismantling the idea that you exist to serve others. She fought against the notion that your life is a debt you can never repay. And she would tell you clearly and without apology, you are not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Not even family. Your life is yours. Your choices are yours. And the people who truly love you will respect that even when it's inconvenient for them. So here's what I want you to do. Pick one boundary, just one, something small, something manageable, and hold it. Don't explain it to death. Don't apologize for it. Just hold it. And when the guilt comes, and it will, remind yourself, this discomfort is not proof that I'm wrong. It's proof that I'm changing. If this video resonated with you, if you recognized your family in any of these signs, do me a favor, hit that like button. It tells me this kind of content matters to you. And drop a comment. Which sign hit hardest for you? Was it the sacrifice reminders? The boundary violations? Let me know. I read every single one. If you want to keep seeing life through the Rand lens, where we cut through the guilt, the manipulation, and the emotional games people play, hit subscribe. Because we're just getting started. Next video, we re-diving into something even deeper. What happens when guilt stops working and your family moves to the next level of control? You won't want to miss it. Until then, remember, choosing yourself is not selfish. It's survival. I'll see you in the next one.